It's the Security Weekly News. It is episode 609, and it is Friday, the 21st day of August, 2026. I am Doug White. Today we've got surveillance, murder hornets, Portmantau, TrueCONF, Siemens enable Robo-Tips, and more on this episode of the Security Weekly News.
We interrupt our program to bring you this.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White, and it is almost September. School is starting in the United States, so it's time to feel nostalgic for the good old days when you were in school. Drinking vodka out of soda cans, smoking under the bleachers, singing doo-wop songs while combing your hair, and making out with Olivia Newton-John in a Ford Popular 103. I think I have Grease, Guys and Dolls, American Graffiti, maybe some British shows. I'm not sure. I don't think they sold a Ford Popular in the United States, but, you know, it was a cool car. But, you know, and nostalgia is why we can't have nice things, right? Because everybody's always imagining this wonderful past that never really existed. And all those new things compete with these remembered old things in our heads or something like that. I don't know. Agentic AI. Yeah. Well, there's no shortage of threat intel out there. Feeds, reports, alerts, it just keeps coming. But the real problem is figuring out what any of it actually means for your environment. At the Threat Intelligence Virtual Cybersecurity Summit on August 26th, we'll dig into how teams are cutting through the noise and turning intel into something useful. Security Weekly listeners can register for free at securityweekly.com/threatintel using the promo code CSS26-SW. So check that out. It's coming right up, like next week. This story, the first story I had today was from CyberSec, and it was about how AI is essentially breaking vulnerability management. And they called this the Vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities. It's a portmanteau. Ooh, I don't even know how to say that word. Portmanteau. It's a neologism. Whichever one, you can't pronounce any of them. But it means you take multiple words and squish them together to make new words. Like patch test. I tried to make up some, I don't know if I can say them. Patchastrophe. Breach NATO. That was my favorite one that I came up with. Breach NATO. Ransomgeddon. Mimi Katzapalooza. I kind of like that one too, right? I think that one's actually a complex neologism. I think that was written on my freshman comp paper, comparing Vonnegut's Breakfast of Champions to Steppenwolf, a Steppenfast of champions, indeed. And they wrote, complex neologism is not amusing. And I was like, I'll be at the bar. Okay, anyway. But, you know, vulnerability management, think about a process. A vulnerability is found, you have to figure out the vulnerability, develop a patch for the vulnerability, test the patch, publish the patch, deploy the patch, test the deployment, and then monitor for unpatched systems and or problems with the deployment. Yeah. I mean, if each one of those is a separate committee, even if the committees are just two people, each committee's got to meet at least twice. Oh, I think this is a new programming assignment I'm going to have to write. When will Dwayne Hoover get a systems green light? Yeah, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, infinity, 3 infinities. Yeah. I mean, it's always been a problem, right? I mean, at the bank, when we were down, they charged by the minute. Really. We had this like heart surgery clock thing that you push this big red button and the clock started ticking. And after 10 minutes, you were supposed to call the vice president, regardless of when. After 20 minutes, you had to call the president. And after 1 hour, well, you call a cab to take you home because you just got fired and they towed your car. But that bank idea is still there for us. You know, I mean, AI means that this cycle is starting to get very short. And on the attacker side, they can make this even quicker because if they can deconstruct, reverse engineer, and so forth, everything very, very quickly, guess what? Everything old is new again. Right? So now you're back in the boat we were in, which is to make a workable patch. So I had to make 2 different patches. I had to make a workable patch as fast as I possibly could to try to turn that clock off as quickly as possible. And now we make a workable patch to guard against the exploit. So this could actually be called a mitigation patch, I guess. I never thought about calling it that. I called it a working patch. And then, you get the working patch in place to get the shift going again. And then I'll worry about that later on the beta environment. I mean, and that's what I was doing at the bank, right? Typical scene, a Wednesday. It's 0100 hours. Doug appears haggard despite his tender years. He's holding a large cup of black coffee and smoking an unfiltered Pall Mall cigarette and staring into the rain out the window. He's thinking it would look a lot more like Blade Runner if there was more neon. Down on the processing floor, an operator types program process instead of program process, and the whole system implodes. Bells ring. Doug tosses his cigarette into the bucket and runs to the console. Alarms howl like damned souls in a deep fryer. The clock starts. Doug quickly adds program to the preprocessor, and that clears the error, regardless of what Yeah, I'm going to stop there. But, hit the reset on the clock. The alarm's quiet. Doug lights another unfiltered cigarette and returns to staring into the rain. Next week, Roy Batty shows up and breaks Doug's fingers. But anyway, patching binaries, reverse engineering, all these things that we may have to do today that I didn't have to do because I controlled the whole place, right? It was mine, all mine. But today, you got a lot of different vectors there, but the same problem still exists. How do you get through this process at lightning speed and get this secured before some 12-year-old in New Jersey has compromised your entire enterprise like a Kilgore Trout novel being read by Dwayne Hoover? Lots of Kurt Vonnegut references. But so we've been here before. When the first company attached a PC to a LAN, to a bridge, and to the internet, and it created our whole industry, right? The whole thing. Dwayne reads one piece of untrusted input and believes it and basically loses his mind. That's the whole point of that book. It's a perfect analogy to our current situation. Damn, Kurt, you nailed it from 1973. RIP. But this is really, really serious stuff for all of us because we're facing this Vulnerabilities daily, and we're going to keep facing it until companies start getting their heads around maybe we shouldn't release alphaware. Maybe we should debug this ourselves because somebody's going to do it for us if we don't. And for so long, they've had this attitude of, well, the consumers will do it. They'll report the bugs and it'll get fixed later. I don't know. Zero trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect. But implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default deny at execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold, trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's zero trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/threatlocker. Unlock the full InfoSec World experience with the All Access Pass featuring premium workshops, exclusive content, VIP experiences, and expanded opportunities to connect with cybersecurity leaders across industries. Join us in Orlando, October 12th to 14th. Listeners can save 30% on their pass with code ISW26-SWSAVINGS at securityweekly.com/InfoSecWorld 2026. My free pass must be in the mail somewhere. I haven't seen it yet. All right. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, ordered U.S. federal agencies to prioritize patching 2 vulnerabilities in the TrueCONF server, a self-hosted communication platform. Now, if you don't know, TrueCONF server is a platform designed to secure messaging and video conferencing, and it's designed specifically to run on-prem, as opposed to, Zoom running in China or Microsoft Teams. I wonder where does Teams run? I'm going to say Teams runs in Midgard, HeimdallNet. I don't know. It's all in the cloud, wherever the cloud is. But this is a tool that was marketed essentially that if you don't really like the idea of all your communications being hosted somewhere by someone else, and it's all being supported by Ratatoskr. Anybody get that? Ratatoskr? Yeah. No, it's not about some kid in a chef's hat with rats controlling their brain. Ratatoskr is a squirrel. It's a squirrel that runs up and down the world tree and carries messages. Yeah, so it's a squirrel based LAN. But yeah, I mean, now I'm blathering about Norse mythology. I knew today was going to be weird. But anyway, I am an on-prem person. I being an old mainframer type, I kind of like the idea I could go down there and say, you know how that's the way it's going to be. You're making my hands shake, buddy. Sure be a shame if I spill this sticky cola drink all over your motherboard. Real shame. Whoa. Sorry, the company was too cheap to pay the royalty, so I could say the name of a popular cola. They did offer me Stars and Stripes or Check, but I decided not. Well, and now I went and said them, so I guess we'll have to pay royalties to those as well. But anyway, an unauthenticated remote attacker trying to connect to TCP 4307 can execute an arbitrary script in this vulnerability. And there's two of them, but that's one of them. And immediately I say, wait, 4307 TCP, why is that exposed? Come on, tell me. I mean, I know that's how you connect to it, right? But why is that not behind a VPN? Who on earth went in and said, open 4307 TCP? Of course, that was a step up from the guy that went, just open all the ports. That way we don't have to worry about it and we'll get it working. Why is this being exposed? Now, the other one is a lot more complex and it involves code injections and so forth, but it can still lead to somebody running arbitrary commands on the operating system. Of course, why do they need to do that when they can just access port 4307 TCP? So these are being actively targeted currently. So first, patch. There is a patch. And second, why are you still exposing this stuff every week? It's just every week. I'm like, and they're like, oh yeah, people fix this. Come on. I've been saying this for like 5 years and I still, okay. It's your funeral. It's your clock. You get to start the button. 5 major agencies of the U.S. federal government released an advisory on the 19th that said, quote, unspecified threat actors are mounting AI-assisted attacks on Siemens S7 series programmable logic controllers at critical infrastructure facilities nationwide. One, getting 5 U.S. government agencies to agree on anything is pretty impressive, but wow. I mean, look, PLCs are hard to patch. I get it. We've all been there. Somebody called up and said, hey, buddy, could you come down and help with the PLCs? And you're like, I'm not touching that damn thing. I don't know how it works. They're hard to secure, and they're often old tech. But even new tech can have problems in it, right? So the S7 family of PLCs started in 1994. I mean, they have newer models, obviously, but that doesn't mean yours is. And even if it is, it's still got a problem. And I mean, OT tech is designed to last for 60 years. That was literally the plan for that stuff. So for years, the OT people always said, this stuff's too weird and obscure. How would they even get to it across the minefield and the razor wire? I did work somewhere that had a lot of razor wire. But, then somebody attached the whole thing to a Wi-Fi network so Chucky could work from home on Thursdays, and suddenly it was wide open. And the pandemic pushed it even more, right? Because people were like, well, how are we going to manage all these valves? And they're like, well, we put these Wi-Fi on here and then it'll be fine, but they still had the attitude that it was obscure and unobtainable. But then they attached it to Wi-Fi, and then they attached it to the internet, and all of a sudden it was none of those things. This thing came from the NSA, the FBI, the CISA, DOE, and EPA. Wow. It's an eclectic group if there ever was one. I mean, these are AI-assisted automated attacks, so they're fast, they're effective, and they're targeting the infrastructure near you, which infrastructure is probably running on a shoestring budget, and a guy named Earl is smoking a Winston cigarette and cleaning his nails, waiting to turn the main valve to prevent flooding the entire subway line from 125th Street to 86th Street. But suddenly, Earl takes a draw on his Winston cigarette, and the valve is turning itself in the wrong direction. And Earl blows smoke out of his nostrils and says, I'll be a monkey's uncle. But then he shrugs and says, well, shift's over anyway. Glad I live uptown. Good luck, boys. I mean, I was really like screenwriting or something today. I don't know what. I wrote a lot of scenes, right? So what we need mechanisms that support the local water authority, the county sewer works, and all these other hundreds of thousands of isolated small operations and small and medium-sized operations that always have said nobody would bother with this, but they will. And AI never sleeps, and it seeps into the cracks in your soul while you're sleeping, or at least it seeps into your Siemens S7 PLC that is managing the radioactive water valve that keeps it from diverting everything into the city water supply. Yeah, keep telling yourself that something like this isn't out there somewhere, because I bet it is. Let me tell you, I've seen stuff. I've seen attack ships burning off the shoulder of Orion, whatever that actually means, but when Rutger Hauer starts improvising, you just let him go, you know. Is nothing sacred? An attacker poses as a CoinDesk exec, and they're going after, wait for it, Siemens PLCs? No. The television in your refrigerator? Nah. They're going after the attendees of the hacker summer camp, according to Huntress. Oh my, although this is kind of also asking for it, right? I'm like, let's go after the hackers, because I'm like, yeah, the hackers might get mad. And I literally remember corporate policy saying, I was actually called out at a panel one time because I talked about lulzsec, and literally all these people just cringed. And I was like, what'd I say? And they were like, and this person came running up to me and went, please don't say the name lulzsec in any meeting because it might attract them. And I'm like, really? Is this like saying Biggie Smalls 3 times in the mirror? Are you serious? And they're like, no, please don't say Biggie Smalls either. They had company policy that you could not say the name of this, at the time, very, prolific hacking group. And so now you're going after Hacker Summer Camp? Really? So what happened was the attacker sent an email to a bunch of attendees and said they were planning an upcoming con, and they sent a Google Doc as a planning doc for the next event. So they obviously had a list of attendees of Hacker Summer Camp. So, first there's a problem there, obviously. Now, if you open this document, they like me. They want me there. They really, really like me. Oh boy, I'm going to click it. But when you open it to see if you're the keynote speaker, the headliner, or you're just filling in for Paul because he couldn't make it, or maybe you're just being invited to attend on your own dime. Well, if you're logged into your Google account, it pops open a sidebar asking for a decryption key for the document that the attacker has provided you in this email. Now, even if you stop there and say, maybe this is not a good idea, that sidebar feature has already reported back host information, IP address information, operating system info, and other stuff that it was grabbing. Uh-oh. Now, if you do use the key, so you say, well, you know what, I'm going to put this key in here, it sort of crashes, and it offers you an update to fix the issue if you're on Mac or Windows. It doesn't say what happens if you're running Arch Linux, so I don't know. But if you do run the click fix, oh my God, well, it starts exfiltrating cookies, browser passwords, anything it can scrape out of your browsers on your system, and all that gets sent up to Telegram. Now, the Huntress people said they did not respond to this beyond they just looked at the initial email. And another lure immediately, well, not immediately, they said a little later, another lure was sent out with a fake Dropbox DocSend share that would put you in a fake version of DocSend from the typo squatted domain docsend.online. So I think the point is they will try and find a lure that appeals to you, and they've obviously got access to a lot of people's information. So no one's immune. Remind your people, even if they are, Uber hacker type people or whatever, remind them to be vigilant, because even if they're all fancy schmancy types that get invited to go to Hacker Summer Camp on somebody else's dime, they're still vulnerable to this kind of stuff. And I think it's not a bad idea to remind people regularly, because especially people that think I would never go for this, I would never fall for the scam. And here's one right here that's got every element that would appeal to a lot of people who were at Hacker Summer Camp. Hey, would you like to be a keynote speaker at my upcoming Texarkana Con? we're paying for the whole trip. Open here to see what we'd like you to do or to choose your favorite thing. And a lot of people are going to go for that. So be warned. I don't have the nerve to deal with criminals. I really don't. I mean, I'm so paranoid. I would probably not be able to give $25 to the heroin dealer out the window of the car. I mean, I don't know what heroin costs. I know some of you do, but I don't. I got that from Lou Reed, and he wrote that song in like the 60s. So who knows how, I don't know, maybe $250 now, but you know what I mean. I mean, you probably can't buy heroin at Lexington on 125th Street anymore either, but back then you could. But that's my knowledge of heroin deals. So I don't know if I could transfer $10,000 to a crime syndicate for a base phishing kit. I mean, it had add-ons too. Now, this particular one is for sale on a Russian language forum that claims they can enroll attacker-controlled passkeys on compromised accounts and provide persistent access after the user changes the password. Ooh, shut up and take my money. I mean, that sounds pretty nice, right? So you get some credential stuffing stuff, you get on the dark web, you get in, this thing knows that the users are going to be, they're going to say, hey, somebody just changed my password. They get an alert, whatever. They jump in and change their password back. Okay, do I have $10,000? Doug yells, another scene. I tell you, I was on a weird mood today. Doug yells, Anya, can I have $10,000 to buy a Russian phishing kit online? It's really cool. Anya, what do you think? Are we made of money? You're going to get a job, you worthless scheissack? Or am I going home to mama? I think my life turned into like an old black and white television show right about there somewhere, but that's okay. Sometimes I feel like my life is an old black and white television show. But I mean, this is a fundamental problem, right? You buy an account for Cool Daddy with the password Daddy Cool ! For security, and you log in. Okay. Now, Cool Daddy notices that somebody just logged into their account and tried to change the password. And they say, ooh, somebody logged into my account. And they're going to jump on board and change the password to something else. Probably ! LOOCYDDAD. Yeah. Or they change it to a random 36 character string full of all kinds of garbage. Okay. But Abnormal Security, who looked at they said they looked at the docs for this thing. They did not subscribe to it. And they said it uses a browser in the middle attack. So basically what's going to happen is it sets up a passkey on a browser, and that can be used to get into the system. And it does this while stalling. So if the user's on there, it sort of stalls them out. But it means you could always get in using the passkey. So no matter what they set their password, because a lot of sites now say, use a passkey or a password. Well, if you have a passkey to it, you could put that anywhere. And that's pretty scary. Now, they did say they didn't pay the $10,000 and they were not able to actually test that this worked. Could that be a scam in and of itself? I mean, that's the one where the guy says, yeah, I can get you heroin. Give me $25. And then takes your $25, says yoinks, and runs away into an abandoned building, giggling wildly, saying, I'm rich, I'm rich. I don't know. It starts to sound plausible to me. But I mean, the defenses for this are things that you probably should have in place anyway. Generate reports on any newly registered passkeys in your organization. Look for rogue passkeys that have been assigned. Zero auth grants, forwarding rules, Gmail filters. These are all things that would indicate an account has been compromised. So hopefully you have this in your SIM, in your SOC, and all those pieces, and you can detect this. Some of you don't. You just got nervous, right? But you're going to see more of this because passkeys are springing like mushrooms after a rainy night. I wonder if they have an educational license plan so I can get a cheap license for classroom use. Wow. Pretty soon these syndicates are going to set up booths at cons and give out free hats and shots of Imperia. Russ bought me a bunch of shots of Imperia in Moscow. It was good, and I don't even like vodka, but I think I'm going to stick to Krakowa Very Old, though, that Polish vodka in Poland with Polish people, Polish food. Yeah, I really like Poland. Moscow was nice but scary. I mean, I was just nervous the whole time I was there because I was like, I was taught that was the evil empire, and you're standing right in the middle of it. You're standing in Red Square drinking vodka. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. But in Poland, they got great vodka, so I think I'll stick with Poland. Password vaults. Oh dear. Convenient for you, convenient for attackers. I don't know. Put all your valuables in one place. It makes it so much easier to steal, right? I mean, they're constantly wanting me to put more things in the password vault. It started with just passwords, but now it's credit cards, passphrases, passkeys, passwords, your mother's maiden name. It's Keto. Thank you very much. Oh, I guess I shouldn't have said that. PIN numbers, inseam link. They want it all. Like, put everything in one convenient place and trust us. I mean, do you trust them? I don't know. I mean, they say to trust them. Would they lie? Would marketing tell us something that wasn't true? Well, in-able is a popular Passportal password manager. And I have not used it. I've not even seen it before, but I do know a lot of them. I won't name any names here, but you know what I'm talking about. But this one's cloud-based. Okay, so that's my first worry, right? You put your vault in the cloud. Where do you put it? Who knows? Who has access to the back-end servers? Are there flaws in the security of the facility where the servers are being housed? Well, I don't know where the facility is. And for all I know, the company's not even got their own facility. They're leasing time on some other facility, the Nutbar server farm in Norway or whatever. I mean, who works there? Who has access? Is the servers just sitting on chairs in a big empty room in a gymnasium somewhere in Oslo? I don't know. So I would have to assume that we don't know. Now, in this case, Passportal, which used to be called SolarWinds MSP, which I think probably changed its name. They must have changed hands and maybe changed the name after the big SolarWinds debacle. But this is a $1 billion public company which mostly sells their products to managed service providers and IT service providers. And they claim on their site it's used by 2,500 managed service providers and 165,000 small and medium-sized businesses. So your interaction is over a browser because the vault is cloud-based, which means there's a lot there. Bay Area Labs said they found that Passportal accounts and their credentials can be completely compromised by any website that the user visits. Yikes. Now, they patched this. The minute it was found, they patched it the very next day. So hopefully, if you do have it, it's patched. I would think since it's cloud-based, it probably auto-patched itself. But it does create the question of what should you recommend to your users? Should you not use vaulting at all? Should you use only on-prem vaulting or even endpoint vaulting? I don't know. I don't like the cloud idea, but then there's the convenience of it. Oh yeah, your passwords will be on every device you have, on any browser you open, even down at the public library. I mean, we've seen flaws in all these things down through the years. I mean, I don't know of a single password vaulting tool that I've ever heard of that has not had patches and flaws. But I would say you should assess your approach. You've got an approach, right? Not just write your password on a Post-it note and stick it on the corner of the monitor, or better, write it directly on the monitor edge itself. I've seen that before. They had marked them out when they changed them, so you always knew which one was current. Vaulting, I think, does help people use complex passwords and passphrases and passkeys and so on. And you're not relying on human memory and human fallibility for that. But what's the plan for patching this stuff? Or what happens when it's compromised? How do you rotate all those credentials when Martha calls down and says, I think somebody has my passwords? It's a good time to assess this. Run an exercise and see what happens. What if Martha loses everything? Goes to a bad website? Who knows? I would probably pick at least 10 accounts at random and see what's in their vaults. I don't know. Really scary, kids. The threat landscape just shifted under your feet. Attacks move at machine speed now, and you can't defend what you can't see. Tanium Atlas has changed that. One prompt and it queries every endpoint in your fleet, surfacing machines exposed to a live Axios supply chain compromise in seconds. This is live state, not a stale CMDB. It pinpoints which endpoints are truly compromised and traces the attacker's command and control. Atlas then secures the business by isolating, patching, and remediating all at once. Tanium Atlas. See everything, act instantly. Find out more at securityweekly.com/Tanium. I couldn't resist this story. We all hate the auto tip stuff, right? I always tip workers in the U.S. Don't get me wrong. I tip service workers because I know they get paid really badly. I was a really bad waiter for like 4 weeks one time until I got fired. I'm not well suited to that industry, but I got paid like $1.10 an hour. And I was like, what? And they were like, oh, you make so much in tips. And I was like, you do? And then some lady left me a shiny new quarter for her $32 check. And you're like, don't spend it all in one place, honey. But I really hate auto tip screens. I was in Las Vegas last year and I went in a little shop in the hotel. I picked up a bottle of water and a bag of chips, crisps, whatever you want to call them. They were already, grotesquely overpriced. I was like, are you kidding me? Like $9.95 for a bag of chips and $11 for a bottle of water. But I was like, I'm tired. I just want to go to my room. And I picked the things up. I waited in line and I went to pay. Now I had to scan the stuff. So I scanned it myself, but there's a clerk standing there watching me. And the clerk pointed to the screen and didn't even say anything. And it was about $25 for this. And then it had a tip of 22% automatically attached to it. And you had to then click other, then click no tip. And you had to ask. I was like, how do I change the tip? And she was like, click other and then click no tip in large letters, or you can put a custom tip in there. And then I get glared at all the way out of the store because I chose not to tip. Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry, I should be tipping me. I had to go get the stuff. I had to pay for the stuff. I had to scan the stuff. What exactly did you do besides point at the screen? Anyway, I went to Walgreens after that, but go to Walgreens. The water was $2 for a bottle. But what about robo-tipping? Do you tip the robo bartender at the Venetian? Now, according to this article, a margarita at the Tipsy Robot in the Venetian is $17. No big surprise, but the robot charges a 10% service fee. All right. I mean, like really, I have to tip the robot bartender on a $17 margarita. Hopefully it was at least made with Cointreau and not triple sec. Yeah, I tell you what. But I mean, I think this is just preying on people that are used to just tipping on the auto screen automatically. Just okay. Caveat emptor, right? Let the buyer beware. I mean, and then they make it both technically and psychologically difficult for you to not tip. You're getting takeaway burrito from a food truck and it's auto set to 25% tip. I saw that. I was like, wow. And there was no obvious way to change it. And then, I said something. I was like, how do you set the tip? And he was like, oh, it's automatically there. I was like, wait, I don't really usually tip that much. And he was like, okay, first go over there and click the box that says back and then go in and, and I was like, oh, he sets this. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying not to tip people, right? I mean, I tip food trucks. I just didn't want to tip 25%. And I hadn't even seen if the burrito was any good yet. I'm being forced to tip before I even ate the thing. I may open it, it's gross, and there's an old Band-Aid in it. I mean, come on. But I would really rather see the service people get paid fairly, right? I mean, I think the Germans had it right. Now, even in Europe, they're starting to expect tips and have auto tips set on things. But I mean, pay everybody a living wage. Tipping, in Germany used to be just like if your check was like, 19 marks and 25 whatever shillings, you round up the 75 shillings and they go, oh, thank you so much. But I mean, you only did that if they did a really good job. But tipping robots, that's a scam. I mean, of course, is this the first time drunk patrons got scammed in Las Vegas? Yeah, I don't think so. I saw a scam once where they actually thought because Lou drank so much that he would just sign it because he was so intoxicated. I'm like, guys, this guy can drink the RAF squadron under the table. He noticed it. He saw they put service fee on the check and it doubled the bill. It was literally the bill repeated. And so his 7 triple Tanqueray and tonics and my 2 double Tanqueray and tonics were double price. And he caught it. And he was just going to pay it, though. He's like, who cares? I was like, no, that's ridiculous. It's a swindle. And I called the manager over and I said, look at this. What are you charging me double for? And the manager's like, "Oh, terrible mistake. Oh, no. I mean, and I said, well, I think the tab should be on the house since you're basically trying to rob us. And maybe we should then call somebody to investigate how such a thing could possibly happen." And the manager would be like, how about half off? How about a 50%? I was like, wow, now the drinks are only double overpriced. But Lou said, if we get half off, we could have another whole drink. So that's Lou. All right. And finally, we all hate surveillance, right? I mean, but we all love surveillance. I mean, I think we're likely headed for a surveillance oriented world. Meta glasses, Google Glass, X-ray specs, whatever. Police have body cams. I generally, the police I know like the body cams. Of course, I don't know any police that I would think were abusing people and doing that. I know I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm just saying the people I know are good police and they do a good job, and it's a terrible, awful job, and they do it well, and they like their body cams. Because I've seen 2 cases where the police were being accused of all kinds of heinous things, and then they just played back the recording. Because the one I was actually sitting there for, the man was saying how his poor, innocent, precious little son, who never does anything wrong and goes to church to pray every night for his grandmother's soul and all this stuff, could not possibly have spit on an officer, called him all kinds of names, and threw a beer bottle at him. And of course, they literally just pulled up the video and went, well, let me show you what happened. And, the kid is spitting, screaming, throwing beer bottles, fighting. It was unbelievable. Yeah. So we got dash cams, flock cameras, satellite cameras, phones, Ring cameras, and ask anybody, do you like being surveilled? And I'll bet you'll never get an answer other than hell no. But then ask them when they've been in a car accident and somebody ran the light and fled, and somebody's working the scene going, did anybody get that on video? Did anybody have a dash cam? Is that a traffic cam up there? Like, can we get the tags off the traffic cam? It's always been a trade-off, right? It's just like regular security. I mean, put an RFID chip in everybody. And when somebody gets robbed at the ATM, just play back the tracker and follow Joey to that abandoned building on 126th Street and grab him up. Or maybe make the RFID explode. Problem solved, Neil Stephenson style. So, I mean, is that guy sitting over there in the bar wearing Meta glasses and filming me? I don't care. Go ahead, knock yourself out, bro. But is he filming my daughter? Wait, hang on. Excuse me while I demonstrate the use of this Louisville slugger on the side of your head. And I accidentally smashed your glasses and your skull. So it's a weird creeper thing. We hate it, but we love it. DEF CON banned smart glasses, but they aren't banned in public. And was DEF CON successful? I don't know. I mean, I can sit in the park and film the world, post that video on YouTube and I mean, I think soon it's likely Meta's going to add facial recognition if they haven't already to the glasses. So now I sit in the park, put a little black sticker over that LED that shows I'm recording, and I film you. I post you with your name and your information, and I could probably link all that with AI back to find your hotel or your house or whatever. It's complicated. People are manufacturing clothes, license plate covers, masks, facial lighting tricks, makeup, whatever, to prevent facial recognition and license plate cameras from working. Some people are even making apps that tell you if there are glasses nearby and try to detect creepers filming people. I mean, I don't know where I stand on this. It's fun to watch drunk idiots get arrested on body cams until you're the drunk idiot and they post it and you lose your job. I mean, I know someone whose boss was one of these cam idiots and was screaming, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? I'll have all your jobs," and got arrested. And, I don't think they lost their job, but boy, was it not pretty. But I mean, maybe we're going to end up in some kind of Victorian model of behavior. Kohlberg thought so. Pre-conventionalists don't like you watching, and they don't steal when somebody is watching. If every crosswalk sign is a camera and my glasses are streaming your face to the cloud when you approach me on the subway, and it recognizes you in my little window and says, "That's Mitch, the Queen's vivisectionist," I may have my eyeballs dialing 911 and activating the emergency drone swarm in my hat. My mini drones are modeled on a murder hornets, but their stingers are filled with sriracha and ink. So you not only get pain, you get a tattoo. It says, "Tried to rob Doug," across your forehead. But I don't want you watching me, and I don't want you watching my kid, and I don't want you watching my cat, and I don't want you watching me and Lou drinking too much at the Venetian. I think this is another gin that's being released from the bottle, and it's never going to get put back in the lamp. I mean, I think we need laws to protect privacy, or soon you will literally have none. We may have none now. They have a flock camera watching the entrance to my school. Why? I don't know. But they do. Thanks, Bristol Town Council, for listening to the people who said don't do this. My town where I lived already banned flock cameras. I mean, you know, I went to the meeting and said, you need to ban these things. But guess what? How many Ring doorbells, dash cams, and so forth are already there on private property filming the street? How many Meta glasses are being worn down at the gym, in the locker room, at DEF CON, on the plane, or I don't know, everywhere? What goes on in those secret DEF CON goon meetings they have in the Chamber of the Damned underneath Caesar's Palace? I don't know, but there's probably a video of it on YouTube. So you should probably think about the policy for you before someone in your organization wears Meta glasses to work, records people's screens and passwords, or just records people and posts it on YouTube. Are there two people just chatting in the break room and they post that as some kind of clickbait? And then those people sue you, and they sue you, and we sue you, and it goes on and on and on. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Security Weekly News. And we have a Fibonacci number show next time, so be sure and tune in. Thanks for watching. If you want more content like this, head over to securityweekly.com/subscribe. You'll find all our shows, the latest episodes, and everything happening across the Security Weekly network. See you next time.